Bullies tear a teacher's shirt. What happened next shocked the whole school. The bell rang, a shrill sound cutting through the chatter of Crestwood High. Eyes darted as whispers filled the air. Did you hear? It's gonna be epic. Students crowded the hallway, buzzing with excitement and mischief. Lucas, the charismatic leader of the pack, smirked, flanked by his loyal followers. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation. He was always the instigator, the one who turned ordinary moments into shocking spectacles. Mr. Johnson, the literature teacher, walked into class, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing. He was known for his passion for books, his eyes lighting up when discussing characters and plots. But today, something hung heavy in the air. The usual chatter quieted. Students shifted nervously in their seats, eyes glued to Lucas, who was orchestrating something sinister. One swift motion, and it happened. A flurry of laughter erupted as Lucas and his friends executed the prank, a well-timed yank on Mr. Johnson's shirt. The fabric tore, the sound loud and humiliating in the silent classroom. Gasps and laughter mixed into a cacophony. Mr. Johnson stood frozen, shock washing over him, the room spinning in awkward chaos. The colour drained from his face. First, embarrassment, then anger. But before he could muster a response, something shifted within him. A lump rose in his throat as memories flooded back. Years of torment from bullies who thrived on his insecurities. He had tried to bury those moments. Yet here they were, crashing into the present with relentless force. "Enough! Just enough!" he stammered, the tremor in his voice startling everyone. He took a deep breath, a wave of vulnerability washing over him. "You think this is funny? I remember being in your shoes, and I remember what it felt like to be torn down. Bullying is a wound that doesn't heal easily. I stood where you are, feeling lost and alone." The classroom fell silent. His raw honesty peeled away the laughter, revealing the pain buried beneath the surface. Faces turned serious. Some students shifted uncomfortably, guilt starting to crawl in. They had seen Mr. Johnson as just a teacher, out of touch maybe, but not like this. A man speaking from the heart, opening up about his scars. Lucas felt the weight of his actions pressing down on him. Guilt twisted in his stomach. Was he really just a bystander? Or was he capable of change? As he looked at Mr. Johnson, he saw not just a target for their cruelty, but a mentor who had fought his own battles. Someone who understood what it was to be vulnerable. The air was thick with unspoken thoughts. Lucas found himself at a crossroads. Would he continue the cycle, or would he stand up when it mattered? Around him, students glanced at one another, feelings dawning in the air. Realizations that maybe they could be the agents of change. But as the class ended, the silence hung like a heavy fog. Would Mr. Johnson's moment of honesty spark healing, or would the tides of peer pressure pull them back into shadows? Lucas stood at the door, a storm brewing inside him. Would he step into the light, or retreat into darkness? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just do a quick check on that red button down below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any of the exclusive content coming your way. And since you're here, smash that like button. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person in this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Lucas stood at the door, his heart pounding harder than ever. He felt trapped. The weight of Mr. Johnson's words hung heavy in the air. Behind him, murmurs swirled. Students exchanged glances. Confusion painted on their faces. Would they change, or would they slip back into familiar patterns of meanness? Then, as if the universe chose that exact moment to intervene, an ear-splitting scream pierced through the hallway. It caught everyone off guard. The room froze, breaths held tight. Was it a prank? But it didn't sound like laughter. It sounded like pure terror. The sound echoed again, followed by a loud crash. Suddenly, the classroom door swung open with force. In stumbled Jill, the usually confident cheerleader, her face pale and streaked with tears. She was trembling, and there was something wild in her eyes, a fear that turned the buzzing excitement into deep unease. "Lucas, you have to," she gasped, gasping for breath, the words struggling to escape. "It's Sam. Something happened." The name sent shivers down the spines of the students. Sam was Lucas's best friend, the person who had stood by him through everything. The laughter, the pranks, the bullying. "Jill, what do you mean?" Lucas rushed toward her, urgency clawing at him. "What's going on with Sam?" "He's hurt." Jill's voice trembled. "It's bad." Within seconds, the classroom exploded into chaos. Students were up from their seats, shoving past each other, trying to figure out what was happening. Mr. Johnson was left watching in shock, his earlier vulnerability hanging in the air like a ghost. They pushed through the crowded halls, racing toward the source of the commotion. The clatter of feet echoed against lockers. Hearts raced as they turned the corner. The scene unfolded in a blur. Sam lay on the ground, surrounded by a group of students. He was pale, a stark contrast against the vibrant colours of the school hallway. "Sam!" Lucas shouted, his voice cracking. He pushed to the front as he kneeled beside his friend. He noticed the blood seeping through Sam's shirt, a dark stain spreading. The world turned to a slow-motion catastrophe. What the hell happened? He looked around, expecting someone to give him answers. Eyes darted, whispers buzzed. Some students had stepped back, while others stood frozen. Horror etched on their faces. "I don't know," a boy named Derek said, his expression a mixture of panic and confusion. "He just collapsed. We were messing around, and then he just fell." But something felt wrong. Lucas's gut twisted. This wasn't just a freak accident. There was too much fear swirling. As sirens wailed in the distance, a realization washed over him like ice water. Wait, he wasn't just messing around, was he? He was. But before Lucas could finish, an outraged shout broke through the crowd, slicing through the tension. "Get back! You don't know what you're doing!" A girl from the back pushed her way to the front. It was Mia, someone every student thought was merely shy and quiet. But now, her voice rang with authority. "This isn't just an accident. You have to listen." Stunned silence enveloped everyone. Mia reached into her backpack and pulled out a small device. It looked ominously like a bloody piece of glass. Sam found this. He was trying to prove a point about the risks of our stupid pranks. "I tried to warn him." The air shifted. Whispers turned to gasps. The narrative that had been so clear. A simple prank gone wrong, fractured into something darker, more sinister. As the ambulance sirens drew closer, Lucas's mind raced. Sam's actions, the real dangers, the secrets embedded in their friendship. They were layered, twisted. And then it hit him, heavy as a stone. He had been a part of this too. The clock was ticking. Would he see that the darkness was creeping in, ready to strangle them all? Would he join Mia in exposing the truth, or pull the blanket over it? As he had done before, time froze around them, the consequences of their actions looming larger than any moment they had faced before. Mia stood firm, that tiny device trembling in her grip as chaos swirled around them. Lucas's mind raced. Sam was hurt, but this was something way bigger. Something darker. His heart pounded in his chest as he forced himself to focus. But the fear in the room was palpable, heavy as stone. Suddenly, as if fate had decided that this moment needed a jolt, the front doors of the school blew open with a bang. The sound sliced through the murmurs, and everyone turned. A gust of wind rushed in, carrying a chill that made shivers run down spines. The world felt off-kilter. "Lucas!" A voice pierced the air, a voice Lucas recognized. He spun around to see a figure sprinting down the hall, hair whipping wildly behind them. It was Ryan, another classmate, but he wasn't running. Just to join the chaos. Something was off about him, his eyes wide, fear etched across his face, panic radiating from his every move. "Sam's not the only one!" Ryan shouted, breathless, stumbling to a stop. He looked between the students, and just seeing his face made Lucas's stomach twist. "You have to listen. They're targeting us!" "What? Targeting?" Lucas flinched, glancing around at the faces staring back at him. Confusion had turned to unease. Every pair of eyes seemed to feel the gravity of the moment, the truth ready to unravel. "The planks! Sam wasn't just messing around. He found something. Something we weren't supposed to see." Ryan's voice trembled, but there was a raw urgency there that was hard to ignore. He had proof. Proof about the scams, the ones that have been happening in the school. "What are you talking about, Ryan?" Lucas's heart raced, his pulse drumming in his ears. It felt like the walls were closing in. The truth hung heavy like smoke, thick and suffocating. There are secret groups, people in this school who are doing bad things, and Sam tried to expose them. He died trying to uncover the truth. The words hung in the air like a bomb about to explode. A ripple coursed through the gathered crowd. Murmurs turned into gasps. Expressions twisted between disbelief and horror. Lucas's mind spun. Sam had always been reckless. But this was chaos woven into his friend's last moments. "Wait, Ryan, what do you mean, died? Sam's not dead!" Lucas's chest tightened as hope clashed with dread. Was it true? His friend was lying there, bleeding. And now Ryan was adding layers of horror to an already unimaginable situation. But Ryan shook his head, horror filling his eyes. "I don't know for sure. He wasn't right before he collapsed. He muttered about a file, something about names, people in high places. Then this." Lucas felt himself rocking on the edge. The lines between friends and enemies blurred into a swirling mess of chaos. A part of him wanted to scream, to lash out at Ryan for even insinuating the unthinkable. But the weight of Mia's small device in the background, that twisted truth, made everything feel murky. As sirens wailed closer, everything shifted again. The entire school was at risk. Who were they really? Who was safe? And who had dark secrets buried beneath their laughter? Questions swirled around Lucas as panic surged. Would Sam's sacrifice mean anything? Or was this just the beginning? of something much darker, lurking right in front of them, cloaked in the guise of false friends. "Get away from him!" A voice cut through the noise, and Lucas turned. It was Jill, her tone sharper than before. "We need to get Sam out of here." But as they all shifted, someone pushed to the forefront, an unexpected figure with a sly grin plastered across their face. It was Derek. Or maybe this is just the start of some real fun. The air crackled. What they thought they knew was unraveling, and Lucas felt the ground shift beneath him. The weight of their choices loomed ahead, and with Derek starting to laugh, Lucas wondered what had just begun. What truth lay hidden, waiting to be uncovered next? The air felt heavy as Lucas's eyes darted from Sam to Ryan to Jill. Sam lay there, still and pale, the image of his best friend crumbling before him. Derek's laughter seemed to hang ominously in the air, mocking the chaos unfolding. A knot tightened in Lucas's chest. "Shut up, Derek!" Lucas snapped, the anger bubbling up. "This isn't a game!" But anger wasn't enough. Nothing felt right. Suddenly, a harsh buzzing sound cut through the noise. A phone ringing. It echoed like a siren amid the chaos, and everyone turned to see Mia, her face clouded with confusion. She was staring at her phone, the screen lighting up. It's a text," she stammered, shaky hands holding the device as if it were a live wire. "What does it say?" Lucas urged, dread crawling under his skin. Mia swallowed hard. It's from Sam's phone." Her voice quivered as she read. "You won't believe what I found. I need your help. Meet me behind the gym at midnight. They're going to—" She paused, her eyes widening. "It cuts off here." Silence enveloped them. Group. Tension thick enough to choke on. Lucas felt the world tip on its axis. What was Sam trying to say? "Wait, what? Sam's phone?" Ryan chimed in, a mix of panic and disbelief on his face. "How did he send that? He can't! He needs help!" Before anyone could respond, a sudden movement from Sam caught their attention. His eyelids twitched, and a pained groan escaped his lips. "Lucas! Sam!" Lucas felt hope surge, but it was quickly followed by dread. Sam's fingers twitched. And then he seemed to gasp for air. Then, out of nowhere, a piercing scream sliced through the hallway. Everyone turned to see a figure stumble from the shadows. A student in distress. It was Emma. Her face flushed, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Emma, what's wrong?" Jill rushed forward, concern etched on her face. "They're coming. They know we know." Emma's voice trembled, dread pooling in her eyes. "They're going to silence all of us." "What are you talking about?" Lucas demanded, frustration boiling to the surface. But before Emma could respond, the sound of heavy boots echoed through the hallway. A menacing group of students appeared, led by none other than Logan. The school's so-called elite, armed with ruthless ambition and a posse that shared his hungry ambition. "You shouldn't have gotten involved," Logan sneered, looking around at the gathered chaos. "This was not your secret to unravel." "Logan, what does this mean?" Lucas felt his heart race. Layer of fear washed over everyone, turning their stomachs into knots. With a dark grin, Logan took a step closer, his eyes burning with malice. "You've unleashed something you can't control. Sam was warned, and now it's too late." Dread twisted in Lucas's gut as the students around him recoiled. Uncertainty and terror flooding their expressions. Was Sam's condition just the start of something far worse? The breath stopped in Lucas's throat as he glanced back, at Sam. The pale figure was moving again, struggling to sit up, and then he muttered something barely audible. Everyone leaned in closer, hearts pounding as Sam's words took form. The truth is in the blood. And then, just like that, Sam collapsed again, eyes rolling. Back, panic surged through the crowd. Lucas watched in horror as the color drained from everyone's faces, realization dawning with gut-wrenching weight. The sirens were still howling in the distance, but now there was a new buzz filling the air, a sinister energy crackling like electricity. What had Sam discovered? What dark threat loomed over them all? As the boots grew louder, it became clear. Nothing would ever be the same. Lucas stood at the edge of a precipice. Fears boiling over, unprepared for the truth waiting to crash down around them. As Sam lay still, the room felt electric with tension. Faces were frozen in a mixture of fear and confusion, and Lucas could hardly think. Sam had just collapsed again. And all he wanted was for his friend to wake up. But as fear pulled thick in the air, he realized that time was slipping away. "Someone call 911!" Jill shouted as she tried to shake Sam awake. But he didn't respond. Panic surged through the crowd, a wave of dread washing over them all. And then it happened. A deafening crash echoed from behind them, making everyone jump. The classroom door splintered as a figure barreled in. It was Tyler, a student, just off the basketball team, his face smeared in dirt and streaked with something dark. He staggered, breathing heavily, eyes wide like saucers. "They're coming! We have to go!" He gasped, his words spilling out in a rush. "Who's coming?" Mia demanded, that little device still trembling in her grip. "The people from the other side. The group Sam found out about. They know we've been snooping. They're coming for all of us." He swung his gaze wildly, as if expecting shadows to grab him. Lucas's heart dropped. This wasn't just some prank gone wrong anymore. This was real, and it was much worse than he could have imagined. Feeling a jolt of adrenaline, he glanced back at Sam. "We can't leave him. We've got to help him." But as he looked around, the mix of fear and urgency turned faces to stone. "He's not going to make it." Derek's voice cut through the crowd, chilling the air. "We need to. Think fast. Do you really want them to catch up with us?" And as if on cue, the unmistakable sound of marching feet echoed down the hallway. Each step sent shivers down Lucas's spine. They were there, and not far off. "It's now or never," Lucas said, teeth gritted. "Help me prop him up. We've got to get out." But before they could move, a piercing scream pierced the air. All heads snapped toward the source. It was Emma, standing pale against the wall, her eyes filled with terror. "Look behind you!" she screamed. And there they were, figures emerging from the shadows, cloaked in dark jackets, eyes cold and unfeeling. The ringleader, a tall girl with a fierce gaze, stepped forward. "You should have kept your mouths shut. Now you're all in danger." But then came a sound that twisted everything. The crack of glass. The small device Mia held slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. "No!" she cried, eyes wide. In that same instant, a final gasp escaped Sam's lips as he once again fought to rise. And then everything came crashing down. The cloaked girl took a step closer, a smirk splitting her face. "Oh, but you don't understand. He's already seen too much." "You all have." She gestured, and the other figures stepped forward, shadows engulfing the bright school hallway. Lucas's heart raced as realization crashed over him. What do you mean he's seen too much? He moved closer. To Sam, desperation clawing at his throat. Then a shadow emerged from behind, a face stepping into view. A face everyone knew but hadn't noticed until now. It was Ryan, the boy who had shared secrets, who had been part of their inner circle. Ryan? Lucas's voice trembled. What are you doing here? With a nod toward the cloaked figures, Ryan's face twisted into something dark. I'm sorry, Lucas. You don't understand. The truth is, I've been with them all along. Silence fell like a heavy curtain. The world felt like it was collapsing around Lucas. Betrayal soaked every fibre of his being. Ryan, no, he whispered, feeling the betrayal cut deeper than he thought possible. Ryan's expression softened for just a moment. But then it hardened again. The shadows of a secret world whispered in the dark. You had to be protected from this. You weren't meant to uncover it. But Sam, Lucas's voice trembled. This isn't how it was supposed to go. Ryan turned to the cloaked group. Let's finish this, he said coldly. With those words, they all realized the dark game was only just beginning. The truth of who they were facing was more twisted than they could have anticipated. Lucas stood stunned, paralyzed, as he grappled with what he thought he knew and what they were about to uncover. And in that moment, the atmosphere shifted, leaving behind a haunting question. Could betrayal run deeper than their friendship? And would they discover the truth before it swallowed them whole? Before Lucas could process Ryan's betrayal, the cloaked figures began to close in. Panic rippled through the crowd, and whispers became frantic mutters. Lucas felt the tightness in his chest as dread gripped him. "What have you done, Ryan?" he managed to say, his voice trembling. Ryan stepped back, his eyes flickering between Lucas and the approaching figures. "You don't understand. It's bigger than you think," he shouted, desperation lacing his words. "I had to protect myself." Horror washed over Lucas. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a self-preservation act at the expense of his friends. He looked over at Jill, her face pale as she processed what was happening. "Sam needs help. Lucas started, but his words choked off. A sudden crash resonated through the room, shaking the very air around them. "Get down," Derek yelled. An instinct kicked in. The group ducked just as something flew through the air, shattering a window and scattering glass everywhere. The shards sparkled like dangerous diamonds in the sunlight. "What the hell was that?" Mia shouted, panic rising in her voice. The cloaked girl moved with a predatory grace, her grin widening. "Just a little distraction," she said, glancing back toward the broken window. "Get him, now!" In that instant, all eyes turned toward Sam, who had begun to stir once more. He blinked weakly, trying to focus. "Lucas," he croaked, voice barely a whisper. "Don't let them!" But before Lucas could rush to his side, the girl sprang past him, lunging for Sam. Chaos erupted as emotions spiraled. Students screamed, some crying out for help, others frozen in fear. "Stop her!" Jill screamed. But just as Lucas jumped forward, Ryan stepped in his way. "Don't!" Ryan shouted, eyes wild. "You don't know what you're getting into." Lucas grappled with a surge of betrayal and fury. In that moment, he felt an instinct so primal it surprised even him. He pushed past Ryan, sprinting toward Sam, the whole world blurring around him. But just as he reached out to grab Sam's hand, a deafening explosion rocked the building. A blast like nothing they had ever heard. The The force sent Lucas crashing to the ground, heat enveloping him like a shroud. The floor trembled beneath them, dust swirling in the air, choking everyone. A wall nearby collapsed with a thunderous roar, sending debris raining down. "Get out!" an authoritative voice boomed, and suddenly a figure emerged from the chaos. It was the principal, Mr. Thompson, his face stark and serious. "Everyone, get to safety now." But even as they scrambled to rise, Lucas felt something hard grip his heart. He turned to see the cloaked group dissolve amidst the chaos, retreating with purpose. They hadn't aimed to fight, they were leaving. "Stop them!" Lucas yelled, but the principal grabbed his arm. "It's too late. We need to evacuate," Mr. Thompson shouted, dragging Lucas away. Frantically, Lucas glanced back at Sam. He was still on the ground, struggling to rise. Panic clawed at Lucas. "Sam, we can't leave him." But as the smoke cleared, everyone froze. Sam lay there, muddy and bruised, an unfamiliar glint catching Lucas's eye. He stepped closer, eyes widening in shock. Sam's hand was clutching a small metallic object, its surface stained red. Lucas blinked. What is that?" "Lucas, we need to go," Jill urged, her voice breaking. But all at once, the truth came crashing down. The metallic object, reflecting the dim light, was a gun. And in that terrifying moment, right as Lucas's heart dropped, he realized that Sam wasn't just innocent in this mess. The relationships they had built felt like sand slipping through his fingers. Everyone around him seemed frozen in time, grappling with the weight of the revelation. As realization hit them, a new fear settled over the room. Sam had seen too much. But what were the true consequences of that discovery? And in the flickering light of uncertainty, Lucas was plunged into dread. Would he save Sam, or was this a part of something darker? The world spun, and as the sirens finally approached, all he could think was that nothing would ever be the same again. As Sam lay still, the room felt electric with tension. Faces were frozen in a mixture of fear and confusion. And Lucas could hardly think. Sam had just collapsed again, and all he wanted was for his friend to wake up. But as fear pulled thick in the air, he realized that time was slipping away. "Someone call 911, Jill shouted as she tried to shake Sam awake. But he didn't respond. Panic surged through the crowd, a wave of dread washing over them all. And then it happened. A deafening crash echoed from behind them, making everyone jump. The classroom door splintered as a figure barreled in. It was Tyler, a student just off the basketball team, his face smeared in dirt and streaked with something dark. He staggered, breathing heavily, eyes wide like saucers. "They're coming, we have to go," he gasped, his words spilling out in a rush. "Who's coming?" Mia demanded, that little device still trembling in her grip. The people from the other side. The group Sam found out about. "They know we've been snooping. They're coming for all of us." Lucas's heart dropped. This wasn't just a prank gone wrong anymore. This was real, and it was much worse than he could have imagined. Feeling a jolt of adrenaline, he glanced back at Sam. "We can't leave him. We've got to help him." But as he looked around, the mix of fear and urgency turned faces to stone. "He's not going to make it." Derek's voice cut through the crowd, chilling the air. "We need to think fast. Do you really want them to catch up with us?" And as if on cue, the unmistakable sound of marching feet echoed down the hallway. A blast like nothing they had ever heard rocked the building. The force sent Lucas crashing to the ground, heat enveloping him like a shroud. The floor trembled beneath them, dust swirling in the air, choking everyone. A wall nearby collapsed with a thunderous roar, sending debris raining down. "Get out!" An authoritative voice boomed, and suddenly, a figure emerged from the chaos. It was the principal, Mr. Thompson, his face stark and serious. "Everyone, get to safety, now!" But even as they scrambled to rise, Lucas felt something hard grip his heart. He turned to see the cloaked group dissolve amidst the chaos, retreating with purpose. They hadn't aimed to fight. They were leaving. "Stop them!" Lucas yelled, but the principal grabbed his arm. "It's too late. We need to evacuate," Mr. Thompson shouted, dragging Lucas away. Frantically, Lucas glanced back at Sam. He was still on the ground, struggling to rise. Panic clawed at Lucas. "Sam, we can't leave him!" But as the smoke cleared, everyone froze. Sam lay there, muddy and bruised, an unfamiliar glint catching Lucas's eye. He stepped closer, eyes widening in shock. Sam's hand was clutching a small metallic object, its surface stained red. Lucas blinked. What is that?" "Lucas, we need to go," Jill urged, her voice breaking. But all at once, the truth came crashing down. The metallic object, reflecting the dim light, was a gun. And in that terrifying moment, right as Lucas's heart dropped, he realized that Sam wasn't just innocent in this mess. The relationships they had built felt like sand slipping through his fingers. Everyone around him seemed frozen in time, grappling with the weight of the revelation. As realization hit them, a new fear settled over the room. Sam had seen too much. But what were the true consequences of that discovery? And in the flickering light of uncertainty, Lucas was plunged into dread. Would he save Sam? Or was this a part of something darker? The world spun, and as the sirens finally approached, all he could think was that nothing would ever be the same again. Then came the unexpected twist. Just as Lucas knelt down, reaching for the gun, a wild shriek cut through the air. The door burst open again, and another figure rushed in, panting, eyes frantic. It was Emma. "Stop!" she yelled, pointing a shaky finger at Sam. "He's not who you think he is. None of this is what it seems." "Emma, what are you talking about?" Lucas stammered, heart racing. "It was all a setup. Sam, he's been playing both sides. He's not just the victim, he's involved in it all." The confession swirled in the air like hot smoke, thick and suffocating. Weighty silence followed her words. Lucas's mind reeled as pieces of the puzzle fell apart. The shock radiated through the crowd. Their expressions morphed into fear and confusion. "Emma, you're wrong," Lucas cried, denial rising in his throat. "No, I found out. He has connections to those cloaked figures. Sam knew about everything, about the scams. He drugged us, Lucas. He's making us pay for uncovering the truth." Lucas felt an icy grip seize his heart. Everyone else's faces mirrored his disbelief. The room spun as everything he thought he knew shattered. Sam wasn't just an innocent victim. He was part of a deeper, darker game. The sirens wailed closer, blaring the urgency of the moment. Desperately, Lucas looked back at his friend, the boy he thought he knew. "What's happening? Sam? Is this true?" But Sam lay still, the truth buried deeper than they had ever realized. The distorted image of friendship hung in the air, twisted and murky. They were facing a betrayal so profound, it challenged everything they had believed. Questions clamoured in Lucas's mind as he struggled to comprehend it all. Trust, loyalty, shattered in a heartbeat. Nothing would be the same again. The sirens sounded like a clock ticking down, seconds fading away. Would anyone be able to uncover the truth before the darkness swallowed them whole? The chaos around them felt suffocating. Lucas was still grappling with Emma's shocking revelation. Sam was involved. The weight of it settled like lead in his stomach. Sirens wailed closer, urgency crackling in the air. This was no longer just a school crisis. It was a wildfire ready to spread. "Guys, we have to think!" Mia shouted, her voice slicing through the fear. "If they're targeting us, we can't stay here." But nobody moved. Eyes were glued to Sam, his hand still clutching that metallic object. The gun glinted menacingly in the dim light, reflecting their collective dread. They were frozen, trapped in a moment thick with unspoken fears and uncertain loyalties. "Sam wouldn't, he couldn't," Lucas stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. He felt the weight of disbelief tugging at him. But before anyone could argue further, another loud crash reverberated through the hallway. The doors behind them burst open again. This time it was not just Tyler or Emma. It was a whole team of security guards, their uniforms stark against the chaos. "Everyone move!" one barked, rushing in like a tide. "Head for the back," the principal ordered, desperation etched on his face. But just as Lucas turned to make a break for it, something unimaginable happened. From the shadows emerged someone he never expected to see. Mr. Johnson, the literature teacher. But he wasn't alone. He had a grim look on his face. And he was flanked by two cloaked figures from the earlier chaos. The ominous ones Lucas had thought had left. "Get away from him!" Mr. Johnson shouted, stepping between Sam and the advancing crowd, his arms raised, protectively. His eyes were fierce, filled with a blend of anger and something else. Fear. "What are you doing?" Lucas yelled, heart racing. "They're going to hurt him!" But Mr. Johnson shook his head. "You don't understand. Sam isn't who you think he is. None of us are." Confusion reigned again. The air felt electric, charged with shock and disappointment. Lucas felt the familiar tightening in his chest. Was it betrayal again? "Mr. Johnson, please!" Jill cried, stepping closer. "What do you mean?" "It's all connected," Mr. Johnson said, voice trembling. "I've been trying to protect you from this. Sam, he's involved in something much bigger than any of us." "Bigger how?" Ryan shouted, anger bubbling beneath his surface. "What are you hiding?" "Sam was never an innocent victim. He was working with us, with the organization behind the cloaked figures. He found something terrible, something that could destroy friendships and lives." The words poured out, tumbling into the shocked silence. "What?" Lucas gasped, unable to process the magnitude. Mr. Johnson looked at him, pain written all over his features. He had to make choices. Lucas. Those choices put him in danger. But in the end, it's not just about him. It's about all of you. Just then, Sam groaned again. "No, don't listen to him," he managed, panic flaring across his face. That old spark of defiance was back. "I wasn't on their side. I was trying to find the truth." "And failing," Mr. Johnson retorted, eyes narrowing, stepping closer. "You don't see how deep this goes." Just then, a loud bang erupted from outside. The sound of an explosion, rattling the windows, shaking their very core. "What the?" Lucas shouted, panic rising again. "What did you do?" Emma screamed, fear spilling over as the ground shook. Mr. Johnson stood firm, his eyes blazing. You need to choose now, not just for Sam, for all of you. The truth is here, but acknowledgement comes with a price. This is only the beginning. As more dust filled the air and the scene blurred with frantic chaos, Lucas felt a wave of dread wash over him. Could they trust Mr. Johnson? And what had Sam really uncovered? Everything. Spiraled into confusion. Relationships fraying at their seams. Is anyone even who they claim to be? Lucas thought, as he glanced at the terrified faces surrounded by the haze. With that standing in the debris of shattered trust, Lucas felt the impending darkness closing in around them. Would the next revelation be even more catastrophic? What lay beyond this firestorm, waiting just out of sight? As the ground shook from the explosion, dust clouded the air, swirling in chaotic patterns. Lucas's heart pounded in his chest. The truth unveiled by Mr. Johnson and Emma felt like a 9-ton weight pressing down on him. Sam was involved? It couldn't be real. Sam, Lucas shouted, panic twisting his stomach. The boy lay on the floor, blood dripping onto the tiles, clutching that metallic object, a gun. He had never known the boy he considered a brother could be tied to something so dark. From behind him, a wave of guards flooded in, forming a human barrier against the figures in cloaks. "Get back, everyone!" one yelled, urgency in his voice as he surveyed the chaos. The fear in the room was palpable, tangible even. Lucas felt it tugging at him, wrapping around his throat. Then came that sudden scream again. "They're coming!" someone shouted from the back. The group turned, eyes wide with terror, but what they saw made their blood run cold. A second explosion, this one closer, and the ceiling above them cracked. Ominously, dust rained down like tiny meteors, the air thick and hot. "Everyone out, now!" Mr. Johnson commanded, pushing against the surge of terrified students. "No, we can't leave Sam!" Lucas shouted again, but no one seemed to hear. Panic consumed them. They were too busy fleeing. And as they scattered, Lucas felt himself slipping away from the group, torn between loyalty to his friend and the desperate need to survive. "Lucas!" Jill cried. A mix of fear and determination filling her voice. She dashed back, fearlessly weaving through the chaos. "Please, we can't leave him! Help me!" But just as Lucas gathered himself to follow, he caught sight of Ryan. The boy stood frozen, staring wide-eyed at Sam. The wheels in Lucas's mind spun. Before he could process anything, before he could even think, Ryan reached beneath his jacket. "Ryan, no!" Lucas warned, too late. A glint of metal flashed as Ryan pulled out a knife. "I'm sorry, Lucas," he screeched, fear twisting his features. "You don't know what Sam is involved in." Time slowed as panic seized Lucas. "What are you doing?" His voice was hoarse, disbelief etched in every syllable. He could barely process the betrayal coursing through the room. Before he could react, Ryan lunged. But in one swift motion, Mr. Johnson jumped to intercept. A struggle ensued. The sounds of chaos melded into a terrifying symphony. Screams mingled with the shattering of glass. Sharp gasps ruptured the air as students saw the knife gleaming menacingly. Then, in a shocking turn, the knife slipped from Ryan's fingers and clattered to the ground as he staggered backward. "I didn't want this," he yelled, eyes darting wildly. "I thought I was safe, but they're watching us, watching me." "What do you mean? Who's watching?" Jill called out. confusion and panic swirling like a tempest around them. Just then, the dust cleared for a second, and a figure emerged from the billowing haze. It was a girl. Someone they all knew. Lucy, a quiet girl from their biology class, crept forward, her eyes wild and desperate. "They can see through us," she cried, as if the world had changed. "They've been following us for weeks. This was never just about Sam." "What do you mean?" Lucas asked, stepping forward, heart racing. "They've been putting us in these situations all along," Lucy replied, her voice cracking. "It's a game. And now we're just pieces on a board. Sam was never the only target." Her words pierced the tension like a laser beam. And at that moment, the reality shifted. If Sam had allies, if they were all pawns in a bigger game, who was telling the truth? Who could be trusted? And then it happened. The lights flickered, and the ground shuddered again. This time, everyone stopped in their tracks, a deep roar vibrating through the school, as if the very foundation was cracking open beneath them. "What the?" Jill began to say, but before she could finish, a blinding light erupted from the hallway. Lucas squinted against the brightness. Shapes began to form within the light. Figures in dark uniforms emerged. Faces shadowed and ominous. "We've got to get out!" one shouted. But Lucas's heart raced. This was not just an evacuation. This was something else. Something escalating beyond all control. "Are they the ones after us?" Ryan whispered, fear etched in his voice. "Yes, Mr. Indy," Johnson said, crossing his arms tightly. "They're here to finish what they started." Panic erupted anew as chaos flooded the scene. Lucas stared at Sam, at Ryan, at Mr. Johnson. The truths they thought they understood shattered like glass. The line between friend and foe blurred as the figures in uniforms closed in. Everyone was left teetering on a precipice. The knowledge that no one was who they seemed crashing down on them. The ground trembled beneath them, and Lucas could only think, could they escape before the walls of betrayal closed in for good? The chaos swirled tighter, like a whirlwind of confusion and fear. Lucas felt his heart racing as he stood there, frozen between Sam's truth and the encroaching figures in dark uniforms. The lights flickered again, sparks dancing ominously around the edges of their little world. "Get Sam out!" Jill shouted again, her voice edged with desperation as she grabbed Lucas's arm. "We can't just leave him." With renewed urgency, Lucas knelt again, reaching out to Sam, who lay there, confusion clouding his eyes. "Sam, you need to wake up. Please." His voice cracked, fear clawing at him. "I didn't want it to be like this." Sam sputtered, fighting to sit up. "I thought I could help. I was trying to find the truth." "That truth is gonna kill us," Ryan shouted, anxiety bubbling over. "But it's about more than just us." Sam's voice trembled. "There are people who need to know. Real lives are at stake. They won't stop." Mr. Johnson, still blocking the cloaked figures, met Lucas's gaze. "We must trust each other. Only together can we face this." Suddenly, a loud crash disrupted their standoff. A beam overhead swung precariously, and debris began to fall like rain. "That's it, we have to go," Tyler yelled, panic bubbling as he gestured to the exit. "Grab him," Jill urged, and together they lifted Sam, his eyes darting with sudden clarity, realizing the gravity. With adrenaline surging, they began to push through the gathering throng, trying to find escape. But as they emerged into the chaos of the hallway, the shouts and screams amplified. The cloaked figures were closing in, relentless shadows lurking in the aftermath. "Lucas!" Emma cried, her voice painted with urgency. "This way!" They rushed toward a side exit, the world outside suddenly so close, yet fraught with unknown dangers. Lucas felt the weight of Sam against him as they stumbled through the debris. But just as they reached a sliver of sunlight, the ground shook again, and another explosion echoed, making them all cringe in fear. "Stay together!" Jill shouted, clutching Sam's arm tightly. "We can't let fear divide us!" As they burst through the doors, fresh air hit their faces. They spilled out into the parking lot where chaos reigned. Students running in every direction. But they were free. At least for now. But a nagging voice echoed in Lucas's mind. Had they really escaped? Was Sam truly an enemy, or a victim trying to do good? He could feel the doubts creeping in. "Where do we go now?" Ryan panted, glancing back anxiously. "Anywhere but here," Lucas replied. Breathing heavily. "We need to gather everyone, those who can help us expose the truth." "I can't believe any of this," Jill said softly, looking at Sam. "If you had been part of it—" "I was lost," Sam said fiercely. "But I want to make it right. We can't let them win." In that moment, Lucas felt something shift deep inside. There was hope buried beneath the rubble of deception, a flicker of light in the enveloping darkness. And together, they would face it, no matter the cost. But the challenges ahead loomed large. "Listen," Mr. Johnson cautioned, ears tuned to the approaching sounds of authority. "They're coming. We have to move quickly." As they sprinted towards the nearest escape route, a question hung heavy in the air. What lay ahead? Who could they trust? And what would they uncover about the shadows enveloping their lives? With that thought, they disappeared into the distance, the echoes of uncertainty swirling in their wake. Now we need you to act. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next chapter in this wild tale. Smash that like button now. It fuels our fire. And flood the comments section with your theories and reactions about this explosive ending. Don't wait another second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know what happens next. Only true fans understand the power of your support. Let's get this story the attention it deserves.